first off, I'm just going to start us off in a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for today, Lord. Thank you for bringing us all here safely again, Lord, just to learn about so many different things that we're so passionate about, Lord. So I pray that you will just continue to inspire us with the things that we've placed on our hearts and our dreams for the future and dreams for the talents that you've given us, Lord. So I pray that we will just put those into practice when we leave here, Lord, and that we will continue to pursue those as you have blessed us with. But I pray, Lord, that you will bless the rest of our time today, Lord, that we will leave here today with knowledge of the things that we love, but also more knowledge of you, Lord, and how we can better serve you as young women of Christ. So I pray that you will just bless our time, Lord, just fill this place with your spirit, and just bless the words that come out of our mouth. In your son's name we pray. Amen. Okay, so this next section is going to be talking about being clothed in kindness. So I'm going to kind of be focusing on one verse, and Leah's going to kind of focus on a different aspect of it. But my verse that I'm focusing on is Proverbs 31:25. So that's a section of the Proverbs 31 woman. And the version that I have is, it says, she is clothed with strength and dignity and laughs at the days to come. And so I think that while it doesn't necessarily mention kindness in there, we're going to kind of break it down into how kindness is actually an aspect of this. And just this whole idea of being clothed in kindness is a really unique perspective and mindset, and I think it's one that we can all afford to apply to our lives and add to it. So, clothed with strength and dignity. In my opinion, when I look at this verse, it kind of points to our character. When you read the entire chapter of Proverbs 31, the whole part about the Proverbs 31 woman, you see so many different aspects of her and the things that she does in her work. But especially in verse 25, you see these aspects that really point towards her character, because it talks about this strength and this dignity that she has. And so whenever I look up verses and read them in the Bible, I like to take words that maybe aren't familiar to me and go and look them up in the dictionary. And I think we've all heard about strength and dignity, but sometimes it's kind of really cool and beneficial to go and look back at the deeper meaning and try to figure out what the author is actually trying to say and why they chose those words. And so if you look up strength in the dictionary, it's a noun, and it means the physical power to carry out demanding tasks and or the necessary qualities required to deal with stressful or painful situations. And then dignity is also a noun, and it means a proper sense of pride and self-respect and the condition of being worthy of respect, esteem, or honor. So I think when you look at these, both of strength and dignity are characteristics of kindness, because kindness can kind of sometimes be a very broad term, a very broad characteristic and applied to our life. But kindness definitely has a good bit of strength to it, and also has a good bit of dignity in this respect and worth that we have for ourselves, but also respect and worth that we have for other people that we come into contact with. So, what is kindness really? So another definition is kindness is the quality of being friendly, generous, or considerate. And the Greek word for kindness is charis or charis, and it usually is like defined as grace, favor, or kindness. So it kind of has multiple meanings. And when I was researching through this on BibleStudyTools.com, they kind of gave this really interesting definition of what kindness was, and I thought I would share it. And it says, an attribute of God and quality desirable, but not consistently found in humans. And I thought that was really interesting, because as much as we talk about kindness and being kind to everyone, I think it's definitely something that everyone struggles with, because there's some people that probably aren't necessarily as easy to love or be kind to, where they kind of make us frustrated or can get on our nerves sometime, and it's really hard to be kind to them. But in regards to God, He's like forever kind to us. He is always gracious, always faithful, and so it's a characteristic that He never loses, even when we constantly fail at it in our day-to-day life. And kindness is also found in the generosity of the giver, and it's unearned and unmerited. So that's actually inspired by Ephesians 1:7. And I thought that was really cool, because it's the generosity of the giver, it's unmerited and unearned. And I think that is a really great definition in itself, kind of grace. And the things that we've been given by God, He forgives us, He's gracious, all those different things. And I think that so many times points to this kindness that He has for us. And there's a lot of verses in the Bible that talk about God's kindness, and those verses are, in a way, kind of very broad because they hit on so many different aspects of his character. So if you kind of look at kindness in the Bible, or search Bible verses with the word kindness, there are so many different verses and they all talk about so many different things. But if you look at it in the Bible, kindness is a way of honoring someone. So the verse that kind of applies to that is Genesis 40:14. It also applies to being obedient to God or others. It applies to showing respect. And the showing respect one can be found in Joshua 2:12. And if you don't get a chance to write any of these down and you want to, just raise your hand and I will gladly repeat it. It's also shown in acting in humbleness. So that's Ruth 3:10. It can be found in showing grace, which is 1 Samuel 20:14 through 15. Kindness can also be a feeling of belonging. So Acts 28:2. It is a give and take action, where it's both given and received. So that's 2 Samuel 2:6. It's acting as Jesus did, Ephesians 4:32. And it also leads to repentance, Romans 2:4. And so I think when you kind of really, as simple as the term kindness means, if you kind of go and look more in depth in the Bible, you find that it is found in so many different stories and so many different verses and books, and is used in a number of different capacities. And I think if you can kind of understand that and realize that based on research or whatnot, you kind of start to learn that kindness belongs in our life and it fits into nearly every situation, in all honesty. But the thing that's hard for us is that sometimes it's super hard to choose kindness because it means overlooking other people's faults or their wrongs and putting aside our bad day sometimes to brighten someone else's. So I know if I'm having a bad day or I'm super stressed out and someone maybe comes to me with a question or asks me to help them, just based on the things that might be going on in my life, sometimes I'm not really willing or wanting to be kind to them. They might have not done anything wrong, but it could be that I'm just in a bad attitude and have a bad mindset. Or sometimes, maybe that person is sometimes hard to deal with. Maybe they have a temper, or they're really strong-willed, or they always want their way. And so when you have to work with them, it's super hard sometimes to be kind because of the way that maybe they treat other people. And even in that respect, even if there are people who we just really don't want to be kind to, we really don't want to love for that day, kindness is something that we should all just have in the back of our mind, because kindness is something that God has shown to us, and because of that, it's something that we should always show to other people. Just like grace and love, kindness kind of falls into those categories, but kindness also encompasses grace and love and forgiveness in a greater form. So what if we started living life with the character of kindness 24/7? How would our view of life change? I was just asking myself that question, if we started living with this mindset of kindness all the time, I think that we would do things that we typically wouldn't. We might talk to people who we used to be scared to talk to, or people who might intimidate us, or talk to people that the rest of society thinks are horrible people, or the lowest of the low, and they don't want to have anything to do with. But if we look at God's view of kindness, his view is to do those crazy things, to do those hard things, to do the things that people always tell us not to do, because that's what he's constantly doing every day. So does anyone have any thoughts about that? If we started to live with the character of kindness 24/7, how do you think your view of life might change? Any thoughts? So if I think of a woman being clothed in kindness, I think of this person who has a character that being faced with any obstacle that comes her way, she kind of handles it with strength and determination. When storms come, she doesn't get knocked down and she doesn't lose who she is. Her heart for kindness carries her through. And I think that also goes right back to Proverbs 31:25 with this character of strength and dignity, that strength and that dignity carries her through hard situations with a heart of kindness. So And thinking through kindness, I was just thinking like, what story in the Bible like really kind of grasps this idea of kindness? And so I thought of Ruth. And her story is probably one that we are all very familiar with. And I think there's something we can always learn from her story. So Ruth stayed with her mother-in-law after her husband died. So Ruth's husband died, and Naomi's husband died, and her 2 sons died. So there's these 3 women who don't have husbands anymore, and Naomi doesn't have sons. And so they've lost people that really mean a lot to them, people who provided for them, their comfort, their safety, all those things. And in the beginning of the story, we see that after their husbands have died, Naomi turns to Ruth and her other daughter-in-law and says, you should go back to your people, that's where you belong. But Ruth decides, no, I want to stay with you, I want to follow you. And so Ruth basically gives up her old life to follow her mother-in-law into the unknown and to go live with strangers, people she didn't know in a different place. And then when they get there, she decides that she needs to take care of her mother-in-law, so she goes out into the field to glean and to pick up the leftover grain so that they can have something to eat and sustain them. She goes to the field to support Naomi. And I'm going to read Ruth 2:10 through 12. Because this, at the beginning of Ruth, we see Ruth and Naomi, and then we have another character that enters the story, and that's Boaz. And so we're going to meet him in these verses. So Ruth 2:10 through 12. It says, and then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me since I am a foreigner? But Boaz answered her, all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to find refuge. And then she said, I have found favor in your eyes, and my Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant, though I am not one of your servants. So I don't think I put this verse in there, I missed a verse, I think. Okay. But at the beginning, before Boaz even talks to her, he sees her in the field and he asks people who work for him, he's like, who is that woman? And so they kind of tell him the backstory of why she's in the field and that she's gleaning grain so that she can support Naomi. And so I find it really interesting that before Boaz even meets her personally or talks to her, he already knows so much about her character and the kind of woman she is because of all of the things that he's heard from other people, that she was willing to leave her home and all of the familiar and go and follow her mother-in-law and take care of her and go work in the field to support her. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect, that she is known by her kindness, and that was one of her characteristics that people knew her by. So then, later on, we find in Ruth chapter 3, 9 through 11, that Naomi tells her to do something because Boaz is their redeemer. And so she listens to Naomi, and she approaches Boaz with dignity and humbleness, and she respected herself enough to respect Boaz and how she approached him. And so we see this in Ruth 3, 9 through 11, which says, he said, who are you? And she answered, I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer. And he said, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And then he goes on to tell her more things. But I find it very interesting that because of how she approached him with such dignity and humbleness, nothing in a bold way, that he viewed that as kindness and saw that it added so much to her character and to what he already knew about her, and that she respected herself enough and respected Boaz enough to come before him kind of humbly and not just all crazy and stuff like other people probably were. And so I was just thinking back through the story of Ruth, and I love to make analogies of stories in the Bible and apply them to our life. And so when I was thinking through this, I was thinking, if we look at the story of Ruth as an analogy in kindness for our life and how we treat others and how we listen to God and follow Him and what He asks of us, in regards to kindness and how we treat others, that we can kind of place ourselves into the story of Ruth and how that applies to our life. That, number one, even in the midst of the storm or a bad day, we are still willing to leave behind our comfort to follow God into the unknown, and maybe even uncomfortable, and even maybe into the midst of people that it's hard to love. And so that's kind of how Ruth, she left behind the familiar and comfortable, and sometimes we have to do that in our life. Sometimes being kind to someone is going into the midst of a hard situation, into a situation that we aren't comfortable with, into the midst of people who society looks down upon. But for us, because of the love and the kindness that God has shown us, we are then to bestow that to other people around us. And then when we get there, into that situation, into that unfamiliar place that God has called us to and that we followed him to, that when we get there, we are willing to work hard, even in the small things. Like Ruth was doing something super small. She was just picking up and gleaning the things that the workers had left behind. And it might have seemed super small, but to Boaz and to other people who saw her, it was really big. And so sometimes you might think that we're doing super small things for God, but in reality, they're really big things for him. And so to do those small things and to do them with a spirit of joy and kindness, and I think that's one of the most important things, that we might not have the most amazing job, the most perfect job, we might not be doing what we really truly dream of doing, but if we do that with joy and kindness, it's going to overflow into the people around us, and it's going to impact them in ways we never knew. So also to do those things with strength and with dignity, so that even when the future is uncertain, we can laugh at the future, to laugh at tomorrow, for we know who holds today. So that's kind of the second part of verse 25, when it says, and she laughs at days to come. And I think of that as the future, that she's not worrying about it. And I think that's something that's always in our minds, is, worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen to the future, especially, for people like us who have dreams and things we want to do, of always worrying like the what ifs, or is this really what God wants me to do? So in this verse, we see that she laughs at the days to come. She has faith in God that he is going to fulfill the things for her future, the things that she wants to do. And I think that really goes back to this idea of having faith for the future and being able to laugh at the days to come, because we know who holds today, because God has carried us this far, so he is going to carry us the rest of the way through. So if we can become women who obediently lay down at God's feet, not chasing the things of the world, or living the way that the world tries to live, or the people of the world tell us we should live, that if we can just come before him humbly and with dignity and kindness, with all of those aspects of what kindness truly is, that we can take on the character of Ruth and the character of the Proverbs 31 woman and apply it to our life, and be women who are clothed in kindness and who view everyone around us with love and grace and respect, just how God views us and how God views all the rest of his children.